my right headset, the right ear thing, um, was wearing out for a while. That's why I knew that this was coming. I was planning for it. Um, the new problem is that the charger can't seem to align with the plug, which implies there's either a blockage or some kind of damage, right? Which could be fixed. Who knows? But either way, it means that I'm not getting a plush connection to charge, and it's been a struggle to try and get the headset charged, because if it won't charge no more, it's dead. But the new one will arrive tomorrow.
Huh.
I ordered it yesterday, but I don't have that 24-hour Amazon Plus send a drone.
Yeah. Yeah. So, welcome to the Gospel of Comics. This is
In
Larry.
Exile.
In Exile, yes. We've carried on a lot of shows with the In Exile branding. I kind of dig it. But yeah, so
It,
let's start. Let's start
it's
talking.
it's unfortunate because my friend Moody and David and I were talking, and we had an idea, and I was like, "This is an idea that would really work. I wish we could talk to Church, because Church does merch.
Mhm.
Church knows how to merch."
Well, maybe we can. Maybe that's a future thing.
So are you? I don't want to give away all the specs, because we're live. The people, they could hear us. But
Mhm.
do you like that seltzer water? Do you like that bubbly carbonated water thing?
I do.
We had an idea for a carbonated water brand,
Okay.
and well, even though it was a joke, I'm like, no, like if we could actually get that going. My friend David knows people in the influence sphere, like people with OnlyFans and whatnot, and it's like if we could get people talking about this and actually get a product to market. I mean, you could merchify it, right? You sell T-shirts and tchotchkes and whatnot
Mhm.
alongside the thing, and major industries have started with less of an idea.
Exactly. Exactly. So you want to talk about X-Men '98 in their most recent episode?
Are the new episodes out yet? I thought they come out yesterday or today.
Well, it's been out for like a day or two.
Okay, so no, I haven't seen them yet, so you can give me the rundown. But I do want to mention, a really stupid conversation about this. So I'm still on topic. Have you heard the apocalypse is Egyptian actually dialectic?
I believe we've talked about this, but not on the show.
Not on the show, but yeah, some genius wanting to make presumably political points, or push a political agenda, postulates that uh, apocalypse is Egyptian, right? And therefore African, therefore oppressed African rising up against slave masters, right? Um, and it's like that comparison, that poll doesn't work, because even if that is technically accurate in all the ways that apply, one, Apocalypse is responsible for the development of dynastic Egypt into the imperious slave-taking empire it became. Um, his belief system is a more extreme version of the Homo superior falsehood that mutants are not human, when mutants are a branch on the human tree. And if you were to somehow ask Apocalypse, he's an eternal. He would describe himself as above mutants, as mutants are above mankind. He's mutant superior. Just ask him. But there's one permutation I don't think I mentioned in passing that I think really applies to why we can talk about how X-Men '97 has missed a step in replicating these comic stories. Because, I want to be fair, the Ensign Bonner time story is from comics, right? Um, which is, so let me get this straight. Magneto has been retconned to objectively be a Jew from World War II.
Mhm.
Has traveled into the ancient past to guide a young mutant into becoming Apocalypse, even if that wasn't his goal. Right? That mutant will then go on to shape Egypt, which will enslave the Jews. Because even though that historical event is a little more complicated than that, in Marveldom, that's a reality. Right?
Although Marvel is kind of nebulously vague on how much he's influenced that versus Ram Tut influenced Egypt.
Right, but you see the problem, right?
And
If you're going
to... they brought Khonshu into this business.
Right. But what I'm getting at is that if you're going to try and politicize something as untenable as Apocalypse, right? And you're going to use X-Men 97 as your sample because you're a normie who didn't do any research and doesn't know shit about comics, right? You need to think about the context of what you were implying, because you were implying that a Jew is responsible for the enslavement, disenfranchisement, and dysphoria of the Jews, and is in fact the maker of his own social disenfranchisement during World War II.
Well, I mean,
right?
For the academic and intellectual class working in Disney, that's okay for them because they don't like Jews.
Right, but Jew. If we have to use their terminology. So I want to be very clear. I'm using their terms. Jews aren't white, therefore Jews are less bad than us.
No. To the lefties, Jews are white.
But anti-Semitism is wrong. They keep telling us this, and to be fair, it is.
The lefties don't think anti-Semitism is wrong anymore, but they know they can't say it.
I see.
They have to dress it up.
So it's actually one of those anti-Semitism is wrong when you do it kind of things. Right. But it's perfectly okay for them because they have the approved form of anti-Semitism.
Yes, they talk about how Israel's bad and how moneyed financial interests that all happen to have certain names have an undue influence on politics, and they play cute.
Well, okay. Well, let's expand this out. Let's take them at their word, okay? Even though we shouldn't. Right? Because you dropped the quantifier. Somebody's going to go, well, it was Rama-Tut. It's like, okay, Rama-Tut enslaved Apocalypse. He set this all in motion because Rama-Tut's a piece of shit. Rama-Tut is Kang. That is actually revealed.
Yes.
Right? Now, Kang has always been Kang. Okay? In my experience, Kang was a guy with a blue face.
Well, no, he hasn't always been Kang. He decided to stop being Kang at various points in time.
Right, but here's the thing. There's always been, in my experience, a subtle inference that Kang is some variation of Victor Von Doom, either from his lineal descent or his progenitor or both.
Oh, he's not lineally descended from Victor Von Doom.
Right.
He's lineally descended from Nathaniel Richards, Reed Richards' dad.
Oh, interesting thing I didn't know. But here's the thing of it. Okay? Because it still doesn't add up. Some genius decided that it was a really good idea to cast a man of color as Kang the Conqueror in Loki and then in film as He Who Stands Alone.
That was Kevin Feige, yes.
Right. And they insist that this is the thing. So when they showed the Council of Kangs, which was already retarded to begin with, though many of them have the blue face, all of them are that guy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
John Delancey was the voice of Rama-Tut as Kang in X-Men 97. I noticed it. I didn't have to read the credits to know who that was. Right?
Mm-hmm.
He was very clearly adopting a Aramaic or Caucasian appearance.
Well, I mean, because he is.
And then when he was Kang, he was, of course, blue-faced man. So wait a minute. So wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is Kang a proud man of color? In which case, a man of color enslaved other men of color to create a hierarchy of enslavement that is the most ancient form of this? Or Is he a white guy who created slavery because he's a time traveling douchebag from the future? Or are you going to hide behind it's a variant, which means that nothing that happens in the cartoons matters because the cartoons are fucking cartoons?
Well, the cartoons aren't part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe continuity.
Right, but my point is that if you're going to create these false hierarchies of importance, right, then you have to consider what do they mean, right? They want us to believe that the Marvel Universe is a Marvel Universe. All of it's the Marvel, right? And they want us to believe this because they want us to think that the TV universe, the filmic universe, the cartoon universe, and all of the other Marvel materials actually are all interconnected, but they're variants of each other in different environments. You know, because 616 and the Ultimates universe, right?
Actually,
Which is
Feige doesn't want to do that.
Feige might not want to do that, but somebody in the marketing is clearly leaning into that.
Well, they're leaning into something that's contrary to what the guy who's in charge of the production schema wants.
Right. So there's that lack of control is part of the problem. We shouldn't be having these debates because we should be able to look at the material and go, yeah, that's the cartoon. I don't give a shit about what the cartoon does.
But the problem is we care about the cartoon because the cartoon's featuring the X-Men, who are characters we care about.
But here's the thing. If they had never invented this idea of interconnection between media, such as you watch the TV homework to watch the movie, right? And they had never used the idea of variance, right? And suggested this interconnection, well, that problem would never exist because it would just be a collection of properties. We'd just be like, oh yeah, I love me some X-Men.
Which is I like how your rant though is perfectly setting up some of the stuff I wanted to talk about.
Well, it's not just a rant. I think I'm on topic. I'm just saying these are all the bits that I have observed that are sort of floating around the X-Men 97 material. Quite frankly, something real quick, quite something that I've seen, because I've seen a clip. I've seen the clip when a certain someone gets exploded, right? And people are like, "Oh man, you had to be a bad guy for Xavier to say dumb shit." I am not impressed by Xavier being so overcome that he says something truly awful. Because my interpretation of Charles Xavier is that Charles Xavier is a fucking saint. He would actually try to offer Satan a glass of water in hell.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's bad writing.
It is.
It's a bad writing, and it's using the X-Men time travel, which was never some of the best stuff.
No, it's really not.
They never really did a lot with Bishop's time travel because it made you ask questions.
Well, here's the thing: the age of the Days of Future Past timeline and Bishop makes perfect sense as closed loop, right? Mm-hmm. And then to say that the sum result of the Days of Future Past will be the Age of Apocalypse as closed loop is actually perfectly fine, right? Mm-hmm. The idea that if the X-Men do not change things now, we will eventually live in a totalitarian meta state ruled by machines, and that if we do not prevent that we will one day live in a post-apocalyptic hellscape ruled by an insane mutant is solid, right? Where it loses itself is not only in its sort of I guess I can't call it cosmic. I'm going to say biblical world building, because they wanted to make Hope Summers the mutant messiah. They wanted to have Rachel Summers be the mutant messiah. They wanted Cable to be the mutant messiah. They're desperate for the mutants to have a messiah. But like Ascani's Son, where Scott and Jean gets into the future, it's a neat story. I don't give a shit. Right? There's a whole bunch of secondary and tertiary time adventure wibble wobbles, and it's like, but why though? Because ultimately the X stories that matter are the X stories that happen currently, now. Because you either prevent the time wibble or the time wibble is self-correcting. we want to talk about the thing that has been introduced in the material that I am most upset does not get a full rundown. X-Men 97 introduced Ozymandias.
Yes.
I have the comic where the X-Men meet Ozymandias. Ozymandias is an amazingly cool character concept that they fucking shit canned for Ramatut.
Mhm.
Do you know Ozymandias' origin?
I have looked upon his works and despaired.
Well, yes, but are you familiar with his origin in X-Men?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. For the people who don't know, even though Ramatut is a major plot nod to an old Fantastic Four comic,
But
Ozymandias,
they later retconned into Apocalypse in the comics.
right? Ozymandias was actually the pre-dynastic king of Egypt and or a Middle Eastern region, because he is a mutant with the ability to control the Earth. He can shape Earth into constructs. And this also plays hell with everyone's presumption, because everybody likes to claim that Apocalypse was the first mutant, and it's like, well, yeah, but Ozymandias is right there. He
Well,
is
also Selene was before both of them.
right. Somehow the vampire is older than both, but she's not the mother of vampires, because the
Oh,
first
no.
vampire, no, the first vampire, we are told, I've read the comic, is a dinosaur. Thanks, Marvel.
Well, that wasn't the original first vampire. But
Right.
Selene was not a vampire. She was a succubi, and
Ah,
she lived during the time of Conan.
right.
She was part of the Conan timeline.
When Doctor Doom was there, by the way.
Yes. But I want to talk a little bit about the Moana movie and how it's not any good.
All right, I have to ask a stupid question. You were saying that my ranting kind of set up things you wanted to talk about. My ranting led to Moana?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Now you may not see it yet, but it'll all come together. It'll be a beautiful picture.
Okay.
So first of all, did you watch the Moana cartoon?
No. I am familiar with its existence, but it was not targeted at me, and I was okay with that.
It's not a good cartoon, but it's better than this movie.
Yeah.
First of all, this movie, they hired a lot of Tongan, Samoan, and Maori actors and actresses.
Actually, nothing wrong with that. I mean, legit.
Well, there is, because certain ones were forced to have an American accent, and certain ones were allowed to have their New Zealand accent.
That's weird, but okay.
And they're all living on the same island.
Weird, okay.
And the ones who were able to keep their Maori accent happen to be people who are established Maori actresses within the New Zealand film industry.
See, that's not okay. So relative to this, while I was before show, I was playing Fortnite with the guys, so we were talking about things. We were talking about the Odyssey. We're gonna talk about that later. I'm not getting into that subject.
Oh no.
But
the Moana is priming us up for some of the stuff about the Odyssey.
right, but I'm not saying I'm not jumping subjects here. I'm just making a comparison. Yeah. One of the things that people have been doing is they've been talking about the Odyssey and they're comparing it to Troy, right? And saying that Troy is somehow more historically accurate because it has.
That's not what they're saying.
No. Some people are saying that.
Okay? I mean, yes, it is more historically accurate, but that's not a high bar.
It's not a high bar, but I want to point out there that Troy is still incredibly ahistorical. Right? And I also like to point out that Troy did very poorly on release. It just did better than Alexander, the movie that I actually enjoy more. I think Colin Farrell is better than Brad Pitt in the role of being blonde-haired Greek guy, even though Alexander's a Macedonian. But the reason I bring it up is for that actual point. My friend David was like, well, I liked Alexander, but I couldn't get beyond the fact that Colin Farrell couldn't get rid of his brogue because he's an Irish dude. And I said that it didn't bother me because I had grown up not only with some really inappropriate characterizations, but things like the movie Widowmaker with Liam Neeson and the film Hunt for Red October, where guys play Russians, but they have various European accents. And when asked why, it's like, we're trying to represent the multiculturalism of the USSR by having people from different regions other than Russia
Oh no, that's not why they did that.
have disparate accents. That's
Yeah,
what they've
no,
said. That doesn't mean it's true, but it's what they
no,
said.
it's because they didn't want to pay for a language coach for the actors.
Right, obviously. We know what the practical answer is, money, but I'm saying what this meant is that in my filmic experience, right? When somebody says, it's really stupid that Sean Connery has a Scottish accent and is playing a Russian guy. I'm like, no, he has a Scottish accent and is playing a guy from Lithuania, and that accent is supposed to show the difference between him being a Lithuanian and everyone else pretending to be generic Hollywood Russians, right?
Yeah, no,
So
the problem
I'm not.
they
I'm
weren't
not
going to be able to get Sean Connery to learn a new accent.
right. So I'm not intrinsically bothered by the idea that on a island of Maori tribesmen, you
Well, they're
have
not Maori tribesmen.
Isn't Moana from? No, Moana's from Hawaii, isn't it? So it'd be a bunch of.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
The setting for Moana.
Yeah.
They take all the different Polynesian peoples and they squish them together until they're a gray paste.
Right.
It's supposed to be pan-Polynesian.
Right, which is dumb, but whatever.
Well, it's actually offensive to them, but we're going to get into that.
Oh, okay. We'll get into that. What I'm trying to say is that I'm not intrinsically bothered by the idea of different people having different accents, but I am bothered by the idea of no, you're not allowed to have your accent. You have to have an American accent unless you're important enough that we're not going to stop you. It's like, look, man, if it's okay for them to speak their appropriate native accent, why not just let everybody do it? Because you clearly don't give a shit.
Right. So, Moana is a pan-Polynesian thing. So there's different cultural traditions of the broad Polynesian rainbow, all represented in Moana's island of Motunui.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is one very important tradition that these people have.
Okay.
Tattooing. Now, you know what the thing about their tattoos is, though?
Oh, I know all about the problem with Tomoko.
Well, right. The problem is that their tattoos represent their ancestors, their people, their community, their broader ethno group. So having people representing one ethno group's story, but with another ethno group's tattoos, is actually sacrilegious to them.
Well, let me ask what's going to sound like a stupid question, but I actually have some deeper insight in this.
Mm-hmm.
Are they calling it Tomoko?
They're not giving it a name, but it is Tomoko from what you see visually.
Well, because here's the thing. Interesting permutations. I had direct personal experience with this. So, David, we were just talking about David, my friend, used to run a game for World of Darkness in the Camarilla, the org. Okay? And he ended up being ST, storyteller, of New Zealand in the online venue. So it was set in New Zealand. He likes to lord that, yes, I was the VST for an entire region, right? So he instantly ran into a problem, right? Not on his end, on an organizational problem. You see, the organization had very explicit anti-racism rules, and you weren't allowed to make caricature of various ethnicities, right? This came about because of a misadventure with the Irish, where everyone was making Irish IRA characters, and they were like, no, none of this. The Irish affiliate doesn't like it.
I mean, also, most people don't know about all the different factions in the IRA.
Oh, God, yeah. No, it's literally just saying you can't play Darby O'Gill and the Little People. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. So what it was in New Zealand was people were really nervous. This was right on the cusp of the explosion of wokeness in the org that eventually drove me out. actual wokeness, not culture war bullshit. They were like, "Oh no, we can't have you can't have Tomoko unless you are actually indigenously New Zealander because that could be offensive to the New Zealanders." New Zealanders that are not playing in our game, who we don't talk to, who don't know us, right?
Mhm.
My character, very specifically, was a menace. I was a non Maori that had been incorporated, and people wanted to be mad, but it's like, no, I followed all the historical precedents. Fuck off. um, the thing is that I went and I did the deep research into this because werewolves, and I was playing a werewolf, have a known history with making magical tattoos that do magical shit, right? Uh, and I found out that New Zealand actually doesn't have a problem at large. We can assume individuals might, with people making Tomoko, right? They actually are really excited because it's like, oh look,
Yeah.
non-Maori are learning our culture and they're spreading our stuff. That's great. What they do have a problem with, right, is people using it outside of its tribal context, as you say, because that stuff is lineal. There's history.
Mhm.
There's family in it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So what is not popularly known, you're learning stuff today on the gospel, kids. They made a classification of basically fake tattoos. You can go to an actual Maori or someone who has been trained in Maori art, and you can say, I would like to get some tribal tattoos, and they know how to make you fake shit that looks real cool that is not actual Tomoko.
Yes. So they also have dances that are not culturally appropriate. In fact, some of the dances are dances that emerged as part of the European and American tourist cycle.
So what you're saying is that this is, for a comparison, this is more like people doing Native American spiritual representation that they haven't earned, which is the Native equivalent of stolen valor.
Right, but this is not being done that way. This
Okay.
is not like a Chakotay situation.
Okay.
Because Disney has hired lots of people who are experts who say, no, this is totally cool.
Oh, no. Again, from the gaming sphere, I have learned. I sent you that article months ago. And it's related to the Chakotay situation. So it is a Chakotay situation on some level. We hire experts so we can put their names in the credits about all the experts that have given opinions, and then we either ignore them or we cherry pick the experts that totally think what we're doing is okay.
So these experts actually are on record of pushing back on a couple of things that Disney did. Now, into this inauthentic situation, there's an inauthentic restructuring of a mythology. So, what do you know about Maui? From again, let's say all the different Polynesian groups have their own culture and customs and whatnot. There are certain divine figures, although what divinity is in their system, it's different than what it is in other systems. Maui being one of the most important.
To answer you, I'm going to make a comparison, but it is not me making a binary. I'm not saying X is X. I'm saying this is the limit of my knowledge. Maui is essentially a warrior god, but he is also somewhere between Cuchulainn and Finn McCool in terms of he's a hero and a trickster and goes on adventures, but they are metaphors for people to derive life lessons from type deal.
Well, let me go into you're in the right neighborhood. So he is a trickster, he is a culture hero, and he is.
But I want to be clear. He's not quite as much of a trickster as, say, Coyote would be. Where Coyote is.
No,
is he? Well, all right. We're gonna get deep here. Let's clarify. Is he a trickster like Coyote, or is he a trickster like Wukong?
Well, he steals fire for humans.
Okay, so he is a cognate to Coyote.
He changes how celestial features work so humans can navigate better. He creates islands. He also fights a house one time.
But he's not Loki either.
Right.
And before somebody goes, what do you mean, Joe? Before the Christianization, Loki was more of a trickster hero than an objective villain. Watch less Marvel, read more books.
Also, Loki wasn't even developed in the Norse mythology. He was a scapegoat in the proper technical literary version of the term.
Yeah, the classic usage.
So,
but I mean, I'm just saying, when we're talking about trickster heroes and what they do, Loki is the god of fire, and Loki fucked a horse. It's kind of the same.
Kind of the same. Exactly. Now, a lot of people compare Maui to Hercules because he had certain epic labors.
Certain attributes, yeah.
No, labors. He actually had his own labors. Didn't have as many as Hercules. Hercules's came from the Babylonian astrology system, but that's neither here nor there. Now, the last labor of Maui is what influences the core plot mechanic of the movie story. But the movie subverts it. It subverts it in a way that's really bad. So Maui, trickster god, does all sorts of things to improve humanity. So he decides, you know what? Humanity deserves immortality. So Maui goes to fight the god of death to steal the secret of immortality so that humans could be immortal. And he fails. Not in a humorous way, but in the fact that there are, even for Maui, there are some limits to the scope of the laws of the universe. And also the Polynesian religions traditionally focus a lot on balance and different forces of the universe. So again, this is affirming their highest values.
I mean, you say it sounds in a bad way, but that almost sounds pretty solid. Because another comparison, another thing we could throw in here just to make people's heads spin, is Gilgamesh. Because Gilgamesh also tries to go forth to get immortality because he's afraid of dying.
Right, but Maui's fails. Dying. But Maui's not afraid of dying.
Right.
He just wants to help humans.
Yeah.
So in this movie, Maui steals a heart from a different god because he wants to give humans the ability to create things in the world. But really, humans already have the ability to create things in the world. There is magic, and he is a human who becomes semi-divine. Because again, in their religious system, that's a normal.
Well, see, that does mix things up because we're, again, ancient comparisons. What we were describing, trickster heroes and so on. Mm-hmm. Having Maui take a heart to give humans the ability to create things, that turns him from a trickster to crap. His name's from my head. Prometheus, because Prometheus stole fire.
But Maui already stole fire. He stole fire a long time ago.
But here's the thing. I'm talking about the meaning of the metaphor. Everybody goes, Prometheus stole fire. Prometheus didn't actually steal fire, although that is the term that is used. What Prometheus bequeathed to mankind is called arete, excellence. Mm-hmm. Right? It's the ability to reason things out and the ability to craft, the ability to create, the creative fire. That's what Zeus was pissed about, because Zeus's structure in Greek mythology was, I castrated my father and stole his throne. I desperately do not want any of my children to do that to me. Oh, look, we have these things called humans. Aren't they cute? What the fuck do you mean you gave them the capacity to contest me? Right?
Yes. So
that doesn't fit for the Polynesian mythology that we're describing.
No, it's not. And within the context of the movie admits that Maui wants this because he desires love and adoration from humans.
So he's an asshole.
Exactly. He's played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
So typecasting? No.
It's even better. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson took the figure of Maui and used his stroke as one of the executive producers, and as someone whose family has a strong cultural cachet within
Right.
Polynesian world, to say, hey, let's make this character look like my dad. It's less important whether it's actually accurate to the stories of our people. It's more important that we see our people featured on the screen.
I mean, this should surprise no one. We're going to talk about something else a little bit later, but I'm going to lift the term that people have been prancing around: champagne communist.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It is very easy for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to promulgate. Let's get the representation in the movie, right? When he's already made it and has no onus to actually stir the pot.
Well,
I understand he might have loved his dad. I'll grant him that.
He's a granddad.
Yeah.
And he's an executive producer in the movie. He has an onus for it to make money.
Right, but my thing is, like, I get being able to look at people and go, oh yeah, I did a little bit of a nod to my relative. I made his appearance similar. It's like, that's very nice, right? But then the natural question should be, but why didn't you like fight to make it more accurate? Now we could see an argument saying I would have liked to have done that, but you know, it's Hollywood. I had to get a movie made.
Oh no,
but that's not it. That's not it at all. Right. That's what I'm saying. You're positing that
Dwayne said in text, he said in the interviews and on the promotional stage,
right.
When I was a kid growing up, I saw Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones was cool, but I wanted to see a person like me be cool.
Dwayne, I hate to tell you, that's you. You've done it. You got the T-shirt. What the fuck are you doing?
Well, you know, he believes, as do a lot of creative people in Hollywood, that representation is important. It's not.
Right. But here's the thing. Let's take them at their word. Again, representation's important. Cool. Why won't you represent it with accuracy? Let's be really clear. He's the man of color, of the right people, in the right position, with the right cachet, and the producer nod. He literally can say, we're not doing it unless it's done the way I want it, and I want it done accurately.
Well, he doesn't want it done accurately. He wants it to be a fine paste.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. I'm saying anybody that's going around saying, but it's good for the representation, it's like, no, clearly representation was not the focus. Clearly the focus was paste.
They also stripped away a companion deity of Maui. They stripped away certain other divine spirit animal creature things.
See, that aggravates me for the dumbest of reasons. Do you want to know why this aggravates me?
Why does it aggravate you?
Because I fucking hate the movie Mulan. And I don't mean the live action one, I mean the animated one.
I mean, the animated one is beloved in China.
Yeah, well, they can get fucked.
It is one of the Chinese consider it one of the best tellings of the Mulan mythology.
You know what? That's cute. That's nice of them. You know what I think it was? I think it was a giant pandering piece of shit.
Well, no, the original animated movie was not made for China.
I know. And I think it's a giant pandering piece of shit. I think that Disney was getting under fire because people were starting to ask questions about why are there so many white princesses in the stable of Disney princesses. So they raced to make Mulan and Pocahontas and as many colorful princesses as they could to make people look the other way. Okay? And so they made this film called Mulan, which is based on a myth and story that exists. Credit where credit's due, and they love it in China. Credit where credit's due.
Of a quasi-historical figure.
Of a quasi-historical figure fighting the Huns who don't look or act like Huns because they look like fucking Mongols. Because I know what a Mongol looks like.
Well, here's the thing: the Huns were a Mongol Turkic people.
Right.
The ones who remained closer to China were more Mongol.
Would have looked like Mongols, yeah.
And they behaved more that way.
But what I'm saying is that as a movie, sorry folks who love it, it is the most generic possible villain, does the most generic possible things of a villain, while there's a will they or won't they 12th night love romance between a woman hiding as a man in the army and a dude who's having gay panic. And then, just to put a cherry on top, our Chinese dragon is Eddie Murphy. Because if you can afford Eddie Murphy, he will be a non-human entity for you.
Yes.
Okay? I'm sorry. I don't care because I'm not the target audience, and this movie is very old now because it was in the 90s. But I'm going to throw it out there. Mulan was never good until now. Because it's actually bothersome to me that, based on what you are describing, Mulan is somehow a more accurate and active depiction of the material it's trying to describe than the Moana film by people who actually have a vested interest in it being a good Moana film.
Well, the live action Mulan was actually less accurate to the Mulan story.
Oh, right, but this is another facet of the discourse, because you put out the links in the chat, and I poked at a couple of them in my day, and people are like, "Why are we doing a Moana movie less than 2 years after Moana?" It's like,
well, no, it's 2 years after Moana 2 and 10 years after Moana 1.
Right. And the question people are asking is, why are we doing it? Well, one, they smell money.
No.
They no matter what set of circumstances there are, you can always start with one. They think there's money in it.
No. What they did was Disney was having some bad news,
right?
So they rushed the live action Moana
right.
for a stock call, for an investor
right.
call. Not to say that there was money. They're saying, look, we're doing this really cool thing.
Right.
Buy our stock.
Right. Because this is not the first time they've had these stock calls. This is not the first time they've had this problem, even in the last 10 years.
Right.
Right. Disney's been having a hell of a time recently, and they're the people that they pander to, not the audience, but their board and the people that own Disney stock and have a right to complain are starting to notice, or have been noticing for a while. But the other facet is that thing I've mentioned before. People are like, well, they did the animated ones. The animated ones are good. The government is no longer backing Disney Corp copyright bullshit. They have to do live action ones because if they don't own the likeness as quickly as possible, they will lose control of it. And they know that eventually Moana's animated appearance will enter the public domain. So they're doing their live action one now, well before there's any doubt. So
well,
now
hold up. We need to rewind a little bit here.
Okay.
You're getting ahead of your skis here.
Okay.
So what happens is they own the visuals, the whole presentation of Moana.
Yep.
As a copyright IP for 95 years.
Yep.
Now, they also have everything trademarked forever.
Yeah.
But, ... no one knows if that trademark provision will actually hold up.
Right.
So the live action stuff is the way to get a second layer of copyright and trademark protection.
Right.
That's the argument you wanted to make.
That's what they're doing. They're stacking the decks so that even if they lose in one venue, they will still hold on to something somewhere else.
But getting back to the Moana story.
Yeah.
Critics who are Maori, Tongan, Samoan, Hawaiian have complained about what's being done inaccurately. But Disney made a foundation to get a percentage and to drop some information on people and to sort of manage the whole thing as a PR affair. What was that noise that beeped? Did that beep come over on your side?
It did not.
Okay. Let me look and see what the beep is.
Technology.
Yeah. So that's the issue with it. Now, the performances were all stale, especially the performance of one Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Oh, you mean because he was the producer and he's getting paid either way? He phoned it in.
I think he is playing Maui as a narcissistic trickster who doesn't believe in himself. It's weirdly prescient about his own state of his career.
Right.
And that is that it's not a good movie, and the music is also kind of stale, and the shots are not as colorful as actual normal real life shots.
I'm gonna throw something funny on this stack. And Maui has no nipples.
I mean, yes,
I
you can't give nipples to a cartoon show.
mean,
It's not allowed.
I mean, he's a human being. He has nipples, but
Well,
either
look.
he's
When
wearing a nipple shirt or they airbrushed them out.
when you become a god, you lose your nipples. That's just how it
Oh,
works.
see, I would jokingly ask if you lose your penis, but in fact, you and I both know there are multiple mythologies where gods are not just endowed, but they are massively endowed. So, very clearly, you keep your dick, but you lose your nipples. That is what we're playing
Well,
down.
the Greek gods actually had smaller ones
Oh,
because
I know.
they viewed larger penises as a sign of being mentally and morally defective.
You know what's interesting about that?
Mhm.
It wasn't a moral or mental defect, but in Scandinavia, the women preferred men with smaller penises as well.
Mm.
Weird little factoid that I happen to know. Um,
But all all of this weird representation stuff loops in with something else I watched.
okay.
A little show called Little House on the Prairie. Have
The
you
new the
the
new
new one?
one. I
Yes,
heard a
the
new
one.
one was happening. I didn't actively go out of my way to avoid it, but I didn't go under any effort to seek it because not only have I never been a particular fan of Little House as a book series, but I grew up with reruns, and it was either current run or it was rerun, but I think it was reruns of the Langdon series with the guy from Highway to Heaven.
Yes, Michael Landon.
And I fucking hate that series. It is such saccharine fucking
So,
bullshit.
did you read
I
the books? Did you read the books?
I didn't care for the books, but I'm familiar with their existence.
So, the Michael Landon show cut a lot of material out of the books
Yeah.
because, from that perspective of the 70s and 80s, it was just going to be easier telling the story with mostly white settlers.
Yeah.
It was just going to be easier. Audiences get engaged with it more. Push that bad boy out.
Right.
This version doesn't cut those parts out. They actually work with Osage Indians and had a Osage family, which existed in the book, from what I hear. Because I never read the books. Because
Yeah.
when I was of age, I was like going, "Those are girl books. Why would I read those?"
Not a full segue, but an interesting side note that I think it'll give context to this conversation. When I was a young person growing up, the expectation, of course, is that you should read young fiction, right? Not only did I not enjoy young fiction for men, so like I didn't read Hardy Boys, right? And I was never a fan of the various things trying to be shielded in my direction because they were invariably pretty white people with problems. Upper class kids in suburbs that I would never see doing things like fighting the power because a local company is dumping chemicals in the water to make the frogs turn gay. DDT is evil, kids. You know, that shit never grabbed me. But then the other end of that spectrum that also did not grab me, as you say, girl books. What do we mean we say girl books? For whatever fucking reason, you have Little House on the Prairie, you have Nancy Drew, and you
Little
have
Women.
Little Women, all of which are written for females, which is fine, right? But they desperately try to get them in the hands of young men. They want them to read those too, and there's nothing to make them appealing to a young man, right? I have
Almost like they weren't designed to be.
right. I have read some articles claiming that research has been done and they found that in general young men, as you might expect, want to read things with blood and guts and explosions and action, adventure, right? It resonates with our deepest, most primal animal hunter-gatherer elements inside the human creature. We want to see stuff about going out and doing things. And I'm not going to suggest that young men need violent fiction, right? But I mean, for fuck's sake, I read Hatchet. I read Where the Red Fern Grows. Those are books that hit a chord with me, right? Old Yeller, the film, based on a book, still resonates with a lot of people today for a reason, right? When we say we didn't really get into the books, we're not coming for this from the perspective of jaded culture warriors who don't like women's stuff. We're saying this material as made never appealed to us because at the time and place where it was being presented to us, it was either being presented very poorly or it just didn't appeal to us because it wasn't made for us.
Yes. We chose not to punch the ticket for that.
Right.
So what the show does is it does something weird with representation, but I'm not going to talk about the racial representation because the racial representation is all appropriate for the book.
Is it religious representation?
No.
Okay.
So the Ingalls family gets in a Conestoga wagon. They go from Wisconsin into Kansas.
Okay.
To get their piece of land and yada yada yada.
Yep.
So the characters are told, "Hey, be careful. There are bad men out there, and they're wolves." Now we can go off on a little diatribe about how fear of wolves was not really accurate. It was a bad folkloric thing. But there were things that would lead to wolves accidentally running afoul of people in a negative way.
Yeah.
So the show, to help our audience understand things, decides to give Laura Ingalls, our titular protagonist, the idiot ball. Well, I lost my doggie, so I need to put out stuff for my doggie at night when the wolves are going to be out there.
Yeah.
This is not what pioneer people would have done. They would have done that before it got dark because there are wolves out there.
My friend David has a cat. That cat is very old. The cat recently escaped, and everybody is desperately trying to find it. It's been a couple of days. And very quickly, David and I agreed. It's like, the cat will be home in a couple of days, and it'll look at you like, what are you worried about? Or that cat is probably gone. Not because we want to believe the cat is dead, but because it's a cat. If it believes it is its time to go off into the woods and disappear, it is its time to go off into the woods and disappear.
Yep.
Frontiers women should have known this logic as well. It's like, your puppy will either come home hungry and upset because he got lost, or the puppy is gone, kid.
Yeah, the puppy got pulled down the river.
Pulled down the river, actually eaten by coyotes and wolves. Found a forever home somewhere else, and he's quite happy. Any number of answers.
Well, no, he actually got pulled down the river.
Okay.
But later in the show, there was a ruffian who found the dog and found the little girl away from her family, from her family's campsite where they're building their house.
Okay.
And this was, again, the main character girl had the idiot ball so that the father could have an interaction, and then she could almost get kidnapped later. When, again, this is not an accurate representation of frontiers people. And why do they not accurately represent this? Because they don't trust the audience to trust the story is written by the performance of the actors to understand what is going on in the scene as filmed by the director.
I mean, I could argue that it is representation of frontiers people, but that's only if they had the wherewithal to actually say, yeah, if you're an idiot on the frontier, this is what happens, and characters should be mad at them for being stupid. But we know that didn't happen.
Right. And you see this in Moana. It's gray, flavorless paste because they don't think to say, hey, what is the coolest version of the Maui mythology? What if we focus intensely on just the specific stories of these specific people? And all the other people who honor Maui as a living divine figure, ancestor figure, heroic figure, while it may not be telling their version of the stories, in this movie it's telling somebody's version of the stories. And that would be more authentic and more flavorful, and would be something that audiences would derive meaning from. And we're putting all of this in because a lot of people are making negative comments because Variety and other pro-Disney aligned industry rags are saying Moana is being very truthful and honorable and honest about, the Polynesian culture. And people are saying, well, why can't they do that about Homer and the Odyssey? I'm like, they're not doing that for Moana either. You're believing the same people who are selling you poison.
Which brings us back around to what I was saying about Troy, because this is actually an important historical context. Troy was ahistorical to begin with.
Yes.
And styled itself as being very historically accurate, very book accurate. By the way, we removed all the gods from it. Right?
Well, that's actually not a problem with being accurate.
Right, but what I'm putting down here is that you have two different defenses going on, right? It's a very classic Mott and Bailey structure, right? Our first Mott, right? Our first wall is, well, we're going back to the original sources. We're going back to the mythology, right? We're being accurate, right? And then everyone says it doesn't look accurate, it doesn't sound accurate. You've got fucking CGI slop appearances of everything, and you're using the worst translation of the most despised version of this by a non-academic who was like, I'm totally going to rewrite the Odyssey, yo. Right? And then they're like, but representation. And it's like, no, either you're being representative or you're being historical. You can't be ahistorical and say that it's representation, because it's one or the other. Make up your fucking mind. And then it's not really a Bailey, but the response is, well, you are fake news. You are an unpleasable racist. You're not happy because it's not a bunch of white people. And it's like, I don't think anyone is actually saying that.
I mean, there are problems with the stunt casting in the Odyssey, which we've talked about previously.
Yeah.
But the broader problem is that there's a lack of care. And realistically, Christopher Nolan's movie has already sold somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 to 150 million pre-sales. So the lowest budget movie, excluding COVID, that Christopher Nolan's made, the last one he made that didn't make a profit, was 2006.
Yeah.
Nolan, by his name, will likely make the 500 to 600 million this movie will need to break even. The problem is, it's just not going to be really good. It's going to be kind of mediocre. It's going to be a mediocre part of Christopher Nolan's filmography. It's just not going to be good. Now, you want to know something that I saw that was good, though?
I mean, do tell.
You remember Ghost in the Shell?
Yeah.
So they've made TV series of Ghost in the Shell. But those TV series were all based upon the movie, or derivations in manga that came out of the movie because the movie was stupidly popular.
Yep.
So an anime studio said, well, what if instead we start with the original manga?
Right. We're going to go back to the manga, and people have lost their shit about it.
Well, it's pretty good.
Right. I'm just saying there are people that are upset because they're like, those aren't the characters I remember. It's like, this is the manga, not
the original manga,
not standalone complex. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but this is the original manga talking about how the team was formed and put together.
Right.
And that's interesting.
Oh yeah.
And it shows some of the conflicts that the team develops as part of their, military unit dynamic. It's a good thing. I'm still not sure about the artwork, but again, the artwork is very much like the original manga style, so that just may be a stylistic thing. I'm like, I don't really care for that, but it's good. I
It's
would strongly recommend that.
I mean, sure. I am still deeply conflicted because I would prefer that the creator of Ghost in the Shell revisit my favorite manga, the one that he made. But at the same time, I don't want him to, because the last time he revisited it wasn't very good, and I would be very sad if someone said we're going to take this beloved or mid '80s classic and reimagine it.
Which one are you talking about?
Dominion Tank Police.
That was a good
Fucking love Tank Police.
Yeah.
So there was Tank Police, then there was New Dominion Tank Police, which was also good, but then there was a very limited run. I had to watch it on the Internet Archive. CGI generated like movie, like a little half-hour OVA type movie. And it's boring as shit. And it's boring as shit for two reasons. One, it is not the same level of sort of over-the-top cartoon characterization that you would come to expect of a Tank Police, right? He's clearly moving Tank Police more into the spirit of Appleseed and Pat Labor, which, I mean, if you like those as police procedurals, more power to you, but Tank Police has always been clothed in ridiculous, right?
They're police and tanks, so yes.
Yeah. And the characters, just like, whether it was the models or the voice acting or something, the characters were just off. Everybody wasn't quite themselves. And it's like, I would love some more Dominion Tank Police, but I don't want them to screw up Dominion Tank Police, you know?
I also saw, I've almost finished the Human Vapor series. And the Human Vapor series did the streaming model mystery very interesting. I want to talk about that a little bit. So you have the titular Human Vapor. He's murdering some people for some revengeance. So it's a streaming series, so obviously there's a twist.
So people are in fact getting vaped.
Well, yeah. The Human Vapor can kill you in various ways that gases do. So the way the Human Vapor is going about his murders, he's not actually human as we understand human anymore. His thought processes aren't really human. He will wake up periodically from a state where he recharges himself after being the Human Vapor, and he gets talked to with a little wish by people, and then he goes off and does a murdering. And there was a good person who said, listen, there's this corrupt organization that enslaved poor people to do horrible things with radioactive materials, and they all need to die. And that was the first arc. But then one of those people got to the Human Vapor and said, listen, I need you to kill people to help me with my political career. So we're about to get to the culmination of how this finishes up and sets up potentially for Human Vapor Season 2. I am interested. Also, there were some side characters that became useful to both the Human Vapor and the people investigating the consequences of the Human Vapor, who are YouTubers in Japan, who sometimes get 9 viewers. I'm like going, I'm represented. I feel seen by this show.
You know, I find this interesting, and it makes me want to give the show a shot for the weirdest of reasons. So again, I'm gonna game nerd for a moment.
They were horror YouTubers too, Rune.
Oh, nice. I'm a fan of Requiem, and I'm
Yes.
always trying to find ways to talk about how Requiem is actually not bad if you give it a shot. Requiem has a book called The Blood. Did you ever read it?
I don't think so.
It was supposed to be released very early in the cycle, but it's like one of the last books produced for Requiem because other books kept getting pushed up. And what it is about is the physiological effects of being a vampire in Vampire the Requiem, which means it deals with torpor and it deals with blood potency and a bunch of other fundamental mechanics that we all know about. But there's a really interesting section which just talks about not only the physiological but the psychological effects of having disciplines, right? Having vampire powers. What does having dominate do to your mentality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what power is actually the most solvent on your humanity?
Was it obfuscate?
It was obfuscate. Because the ability to turn yourself invisible and to haunt somebody's home and see them in their most private moments. And we don't just mean the obvious things everyone be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go in the girl's locker room and watch them be naked. We're talking about people picking their nose, people having fights, people crying into their beer all by themselves, people creeping on other people when they think no one can see them. All the kinds of awful things that people do, right? Vampires with that ability become incredibly disillusioned with humanity and kind of jaded about the suffering and the joys of humanity. They even become jealous of them. When somebody's having a really good life, when someone's living a good life and not hurting anybody, they're like, but humans suck. How dare you not suck? I should hurt you so that you can suck like everyone else, right?
Yeah.
And I find that very interesting because you're talking about how the human vapor is basically losing his humanity as he becomes more vapor, right? And it's like, yeah, the process of being able to turn essentially invisible by being smoke and murdering anyone you want at any time is bad for you.
Yeah, it is, and that is something I would say about the human vapor.
That's another interesting parallel. We're gonna go deep. We're gonna go deep into the forgotten story, and somebody's gonna say, but the movies. No, there are only two movies that count because everyone forgets the original, and one of them is good and one of them sucks. Okay, this also has overtones of The Invisible Man.
Yes.
So the book is a little different, but the classic film, the black and white, does lean heavily into the book. And the thing about the Invisible Man is he's trying to cure his condition of being invisible all the time, right? But eventually loses his mind because at the same time that he's trying to reclaim his humanity by regaining visibility, the pressure of what he could do is weighing on him, and he's starting to envision sort of a megalomaniacal ideation of bringing global anarchy because he, as the Invisible Man, will not be answerable to anyone or anything ever. Blah, which likens the Invisible Man to the Phantom of the Opera, who, if you recall, was going to blow up Paris. Right? I think a lot of people have forgotten, thanks to Andrew Lloyd Webber, that the Phantom is a supervillain.
He is a monster.
But with that in mind, the two modern Invisible Man movies that count are the most recent one, Invisible Man, which is really about stalker boyfriends who won't let go, and that sucks. Right? The entire film being a parable for this is what it feels like to be a woman and be gaslit. It can eat my asshole. The other one that does count and is actually great, even though it was panned at the time and people like to talk shit about its period CGI, Hollow Man is a great movie.
Well, hold up. The Chevy Chase Invisible Man movie was actually pretty good.
The Chevy Chase Invisible Man movie is fun. I don't know if it's a good Invisible Man. I don't think it necessarily investigates the psychological problem of being the Invisible Man, so much as, hey, look at this, we're gonna see a pair of lungs smoke floating in the middle of the air.
Well, no. The thing about that movie that I always liked is Chevy Chase is just this slimy, scummy person who's
Right.
playing a slimy, scummy person who becomes invisible. And a lot of interesting things emerge in his character because of his invisibility.
Right.
So I think that that's a good Invisible Man movie. But
I mean,
um,
okay.
but again, well, we could definitely split the difference on.
I mean-
It's just fun. It's
I mean,
dumb
I'm-
and fun.
I mean, we want to spiral out a little bit. I don't want to start a huge, heavy conversation, but I'm going to spiral out a bit. And we're still going to say some dangerous things worthy of the gospel of comics. I have never been into transformation comics. Right?
Transformation comics? Question mark.
Short comics that people have commissioned where a character transforms from one thing into another. I've never understood it. I know people got fetishes. That's weird. That's them. Whatever. But like, when I was doing writing for commission, people would commission me and sometimes be like, "Can you do a story about this guy who transforms into this other thing?" And I'm like, "Can I? Yes. What kind of feeling do you want them to have about it?" And this always seemed to confuse people because it's like, why? And I'm like, because our identity is wrapped up in our physical presence. Being transformed into something else is an intimately violating and horrific experience, right? This is not a popular position to hold because obviously a certain subset of leftist extremists want you to believe that your bodily identity is entirely fluid and utterly transmogrifiable with the right drugs and the right politics.
But certain aspects of your body aren't transmogrifiable, like your
Right.
skin color. Even
Right.
though it totally is too.
Right. And then here we are, we're talking about the human vapor, and it's like, yeah, a lot of his identity as a human being is locked into having a singular solid form, right? And that does speak to a literary tradition that we're touching on with things like Jekyll and Hyde, Phantom of the Opera, Invisible Man, Wolfman, frankly, where transforming is not an ability. Transformation is a curse, even if it is presented in a positive context, because once you are no longer bound to the restrictions of your stated self, the question of who am I becomes a lot more flexible.
So let me, I want to do the segue because it's on my channel now. So I could fully say, we're totally doing this segue. So I am writing a transformation story.
Oh, okay.
So let me tell the story. It's about a guy named Sam. Sam came out to Hollywood. He was at the tail end of the 80s cowboy boom. Wasn't able to quite get into things because everybody said he used to cowboy. But Sam, he got some work as a stuntman. And Sam could play some music. He did some background, some studio music stuff out in LA. He did okay. He learned some more about acting. He got some classical acting skills, some dancing, some performing. But he was always a day late and a dollar short. And so Sam's kept around by his agent, who's keeping me in enough flow of gigs. Like Sam's a regular at the Hallmark movies because those are quick, easy, dirty movies. You get on your spot mark, you say your line, you do your performance, you go. And Sam is like an entourage figure for a rock star guy and an up-and-coming A-list actor. And Sam one day, in despair, says, I wish I could have some of that goddamn Disney pixie dust on me. I wish this town would finally give back instead of taking. And then Sam wakes up in the body of a 20-year-old woman with the talent and experiences of a 50-odd-year-old actor and stuntman and musician whose musical instrument of their body is now much better because it doesn't have 40-odd years of wear and tear on it. And so Sam, whose whole identity was tied up in wanting to be a celebrity, be part of the Hollywood creative culture, finally has a ticket to do it. But he just has to give up his old identity, his old body. And the story is about Sam facing the question of, is what I want to do who I am? Is my body who I am? Or is what I am something at a deeper, more intrinsic level?
That's interesting, because you mentioned this before, and we talked about some of the struggles and tribulations that they have. But one that I didn't mention previously, because it didn't occur to me, was if they are very good, they could get hit with essentially the Kevin Costner problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a fan, because this is your show now, and Church is not here to be angry about it, of Waterworld.
Yeah.
Now, I have learned since then that Kevin Costner did a bunch of things that are incredibly questionable and really throwing his weight around, and he earned his level of failure with Waterworld. But the thing is that at the time, I heard a lot of people saying back in the day, that the problem with Waterworld wasn't that it was bad, wasn't that it was weird enviropolitic, but that Kevin Costner hadn't earned it. Right? That he was a young up-and-comer in Hollywood who had done some good movies, but he wasn't established enough to throw his weight around and be a director type. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And here you have this character who was never going to make it, but really wanted to, who now has the experience and the knowledge that in a younger female body, they can walk into a room and they'll say the right things. They think they can do the right things, but people are going to look at that and go, "You're a problem. You're going to be difficult to work with." And one of those facets is they're going to think you haven't earned the right to say that.
That is a component of the story.
Yeah,
and you know, there's some plots and other elements to that, but
yeah.
That's the sort of thing that you could do with a transformation story. I have another one that's on my shelf. It's about, you remember Birdie the Mighty?
I love Birdie the Mighty.
So let's take that premise, right? And instead of being like an alien space adventure, the little boy gets stuck in Wonder Woman's body. And it's like a 14, 15, 16-year-old boy who gets to be the biggest celebrity in the world. And a superhero. He doesn't get to be the Superman analog, but he gets a pretty good alternative option. So that's the story. You get the chance to be whatever you want. What do you want to sacrifice for it? These are the sort of things that interest me as story ideas.
So here's the thing about that. And you brought up a good classroom example. Why do I like Birdie the Mighty? So the story of Birdie the Mighty is a space cop accidentally kills a kid while doing a space cop. And the only way to help that kid survive and heal is for he and the space cop to share a body using plot devisium until such time as the space cop and the kid can separate again. In the meantime, the space cop on Earth has to both live as this kid going to school and a space cop, and their space cop needs to have a human origin. So they also pretend to be a model, an idol, to make ends meet while they live on Earth. And they deal with alien conspiracies and evil, space aliens coming to Earth and trying to pull one on a backwater because nobody knows that they're surrounded by aliens, right? And I like this not because of the shape-changing, gender swap comedy of it, but because it's basically the plot of Ultraman,
It is.
right?
It is.
And I
It's
love
also-
Ultraman.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
The other thing that I enjoy about Birdie the Mighty is that outside of like one or two scenes very early on, they never lean heavily into the, oh god, I'm a girl, oh god, I have boobs, oh god, where's my dick? That is never a major component, right?
No.
The two characters work out their relationship as professionals, for lack of better language, very quickly, and they do things like Birdie gets private time to be Birdie and do things like bathe. The dude gets to be a dude, right? They only run into sort of comedic struggle when like he's being a painfully cringe idiot trying to talk to a girl and doesn't know what to do, and so Birdie hijacks him for just a second to help him along because she's a girl, she knows how to talk to girls.
Yeah.
Right. In that sense, it's well told. My problem with transformation stories is either A, the fetish fuel, and we could just say, fetish fuel we can throw on the fire. That's between the interested parties and them, right? But in particular, I think that there's an overabundance of focus on my sex organs are different, now I'm a different person, right?
Because that gets into the whole thing about psychology. You know, you have different hormones. Right. There's arguments that women have different actual brain structure.
So, well, see, I want to make a comparison here. So there are several films, a multitude of them. I think the most recent one was The Devil Wears Prada, of Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde.
Yeah.
Right? Where I'm going to turn into a villain. What's my villain? It's a woman. Well, what's her personality? She's the femme fatale dragon lady. It's like, wouldn't they be just as brutish and cruel as the actual Hyde? No, it's a woman. They're different. Well, that's bigoted, right?
Oh, no. I mean, there are legitimate psychological arguments about that.
Sure, but I'm saying I don't like that trend, right?
Fair enough.
On the other end, though, on the other end of that spectrum, a movie I liked that was, again, not very popular, I love What Women Want.
That was a fun Mel Gibson movie.
Right. Mel Gibson is playing basically a Diet Nicholson character. He's a man who has no time for women's bullshit and ends up getting essentially cursed.
It's a movie Nicholson would have made if he was 10, 20 years younger.
Oh, yeah. But he ends up hearing what women actually think, and it shifts him. It changes his perspective. Now, the joke is he gets, I'm going to use the term from back then, he gets very metrosexual for a bit. Right? Mm-hmm. But the real intent of the film is to suggest that, hey, dude, you can respect other people as people without having their sex organs.
Exactly. I also want to mention a little bit. I read the latest Conan Dragonero crossover.
Mm-hmm.
It's heroes chasing down a villain, surviving by their wits, and the villain get into a place to have a villain monologue. Stole one of the demons that was held in Aquilonia, in the crystals, which means it goes back to Volusia, which means it's a really bad demon. Although they represent it as some sort of a Jinn or Undine type of thing. But what is interesting, the publisher of the comics is now starting to publish Conan novels. New Conan novels.
Mm.
And I think this is an interesting way for independent comic book companies that have licensed brands to potentially stay in business. Like, what if IDW bought a small book publisher, and when they were selling Star Trek comics, they also had a license to sell new Star Trek novels?
Right.
You come for
You come for the comics, you stay for the novels, or you're already a novel reader. You just read the novels, whether you're buying comics or not.
I think that's a really good business move, and I think more comic book companies should do it. In the case of DC Comics, I believe Warner has a publishing house.
They do. It generally publishes novelizations of large events like Nightfall.
Yeah, I don't know if Marvel/Disney has one, but I mean, I feel like that would be a good brain synergy thing that could be useful in keeping the doors open for comic book companies.
I mean, they've done novels before. I have a bunch of Marvel ones. Spider-Man, X-Men. I've got a Nick Fury one of all things.
Then those are weird crossover ones, like when the X-Men were on the Starship Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird. So again, everything Titan Comics has done with Conan, I pretty much recommend. There are a few areas where they get into the thin part of the Howard mythology, but again, strongly recommend that book company, and it's what it's doing.
You know what? I'm going to be really weird here for a minute. At the time when it was announced, I thought X-Men Star Trek was the dumbest crossover ever.
Mm.
Right? But because we were talking about time weirdness and X-Men earlier, I'm actually okay with X-Men crossing over with Star Trek for one reason. If the human genome was degrading or changing in some unexpected way, I can absolutely believe that some assholes like Mr. Sinister would get together and start a eugenics program to try and make superhumans that were genetically perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Sinister would definitely be involved in that.
Right.
So, Joe, what did you consume of media to bring to the table for discussion today?
Not as much as we would like. I'm still out of hat on getting a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been having some technical problems, like replacing my headset tomorrow, as mentioned. But I mean, I did keep up on the stream, on the shit can. And I know it's you because you specifically linked it. You want to hear my thoughts on Brennan Lee Mulligan being a champagne socialist.
I mean, yeah.
So this will be fun. This is gonna be fun because I know we have ones of viewers maybe.
Yeah.
But on the premise that a word spoken in darkness will eventually be heard as an echo somewhere else, somewhere down the line, I want to use this to clarify. Nerd Cognito is a grifter and can get fucked. Having said that, he actually produced receipts.
Hmm?
I really don't want to show this picture on the stream, but I will if you make me. Of Brennan Lee Mulligan staring at the camera like he's got Down syndrome. With a communist flag. But apparently, Brennan Lee Mulligan and not even Critical Role, just Brennan as an ST, was at an event endorsed by the Democratic Socialists of America, where they played election-themed D&D. And Brennan was the GM, right?
Yeah,
So
that's what I was sharing it more because that sounds cringe as hell.
Oh God, yes. But here's the thing. Here's the thing of it. Nerd Cognito wants to approach this from this following angle. Direct quote. D&D is being used as a funder, I believe the term would be fundraiser, for democratic socialists, with Brennan Lee Mulligan's DMing a game where PCs fight corpo villains and greedy dragons. Told ya, the hobby has been captured by rad left activists, turning it into communist propaganda. Resist loudly. Gatekeeping is good.
I mean, he should have just played it as, Shadowrun.
Well, we'll get to that. Like, obviously, yeah, there are better games for this than D&D, but I understand that if you have a bunch of fucking normies who have never played D&D, who are all politicos, and they want to be hip and with the kids, you play D&D, right? because this whole thing is cringe, right? A bunch of lefties in Los Angeles got together for the elections to play D&D at the Fonda Theater before an audience of 400 people. Wow. Right? And Mulligan is a member of the DSA since 2013. And you know what? He has a right. He has a right to be in a political party. I don't care if Nerd Cognito doesn't like it. Right? You want to say that socialists are commies and that they're going to destroy our society? Fine. Go have that argument in public with them. Okay? I personally lean in a center-left direction, but I am not a political extremist. Okay? Mulligan is probably a little way more lefty than I am. And as much as I may hate it, he's allowed. Fuck him. Right? The thing is that one, this is just political theater. This is a nothing. This isn't going to hurt D&D. It didn't reach a large number of people. None of the people who did it are going to fucking matter. This didn't buy a vote. This was a $30,000 fundraising campaign and a dinner that happened to have dragons in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then here's where my actual problem is, right? He ran a D&D game where the PCs fought corpo villains and greedy dragons. So you mean a game of D&D? So let me ask you, Larry. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna play some D&D. You like the Star Wars?
I mean, the Star Wars okay.
Okay.
If I'm gonna play the Star Wars, though, I really don't want to do D&D's rules for it because those are shit.
Sure, but we're gonna play a D&D. We're gonna do the Star Wars. So let me ask you. Are you gonna play the Rebels or the Empire?
Well, I mean, that really depends on what everybody else wants to play. Because obviously, if everybody else wants to play Empire, my ability to play a Rebel is kind of more limited.
Well, it's really interesting. We have a player who's a girl. She wants to be a space princess for the rebellion. She wants to fight the power. And we got a player who's he's a little gay, but he's really interested. He wants to be a protocol droid. So I'm wondering, would you like to fill this slot? We have a R2 unit, but you'll be really plot important.
I mean, I'd rather be the Wookiee.
You know what? I think we can fit a Wookiee in. I got a space trickster who can have a Wookiee buddy. But what are the rebels fighting, Larry?
Look, George didn't really make that clear.
So you mean they're just fighting generic space fascists, right?
Right.
Okay, but how do the space fascists function?
George didn't make that clear either. He shows the military, though.
The military, yeah. Because I've read more than one book inspired by Star Wars, where the story was about a small ragtag bunch of adventurers fighting the power, and that power was often unfeeling corporate interests and greedy dragons.
Yeah.
So, in fact, Brennan Lee Mulligan's offense was who he GM'd for at an event and not what he GM'd, because as a representation of game, even if it's not very good because it's a live game in front of 400 people, he didn't violate any norms. That's what we do on a regular fucking day.
Well, I mean, my problem is because where he did it and it was tied into election stuff, it was cringe.
Right. It's lame because it's lame. It's not lame because it's D&D. It's not lame because he's a lefty, and it's not lame because the lefties are infiltrating the hobby. These are falsehoods being promulgated by a grifter.
But I want to take a little time and talk about something positive. You came up with an idea last night and cooked up some stuff for the idea. Have you read the stuff I cooked up?
Not fully, because I was, like I said, I was talking to some people earlier, and I've been dealing with some tech problems. But I got it open here.
All right.
We don't really have a name for unnamed project number 6.
Well, I haven't. I gave a working name, but the working name is more of a inside joke working name. We'd have to figure it out. So Joe and I play some dice as role-playing games, and Joe said, "Hey, what if we just make this experience better?"
Mm-hmm.
So what I've done is I layered aspects of the Fate system, aspects of the Smallville Cortex Plus system, and aspects of the life path system from Burning Wheel and Cyberpunk, and put them into a blender and made a system.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Look, I've got the revisions here, but the original document is 65 pages, so this would have taken a while to read.
I don't remember if the original was 65, but the revisions I think are less.
The original is 65. The first revision is 25, and the second revision is 27.
Yeah. So the first revision was a little spitball.
For the purpose of this conversation, do I really only need to read the last one then?
Read the last one, the 2 p.m.
All right, because I can, as you may surmise, I can read quite quickly.
Yeah.
But you can keep describing it to the people.
And the 2 p.m. one is a 27-page one.
Yeah.
So one of the interesting things I did was I used the Fate system, but I tied the Fate system more expressly into advancement. You get Fate point mechanics by being, by going out and doing adventuring. And you spend those mechanics, and the GM expends those mechanics as well. And what's spent is the pool that everybody divides and gets to turn into their experience points. The stuff that's not spent doesn't turn into experience points. So you have a plot mechanic that gives narrative benefits for creating narrative and advantage structures. But you hoard it, then you're not going to move up your character as fast. If you don't take adventurous risks, you're not going to advance your character.
I have a interesting permutation of this already. So I'm on the second page, and I thumbed through the idea of aspects, how you wanted to report aspects from Fate.
Yes.
And they get a rebrand. They are now invoking and compelling.
Right? Well, that's actually a term within Fate that they can't own because those are just words.
But the language describes its application to system. I think this actually allows us to create a sorcery system that is better than the Amber sorcery system because it more clearly defines why sorcery takes a long time and why you would want it.
So, using how Fate typically models spellcraft, you would need aspects to create a more advanced spell. You would need multiple aspects, like you're getting your pot, your oils, your witch hazel, your all that stuff, right? You would need those things to then make your sorcery roll. Although with this system, it wouldn't be determined by roll; it would be determined by achieving a target.
Right.
And then you'd have your spell.
The thing is, just based on this superficial language, you have a baseline level of sorcery, say derived from your psychic presence, right? And then you invoke aspects because you add all of your aspects in, right? And the more aspects you have, the higher your effective rank can become, right?
Yes, if you're in a contested thing, more points versus points.
Right. And this is the key thing. It basically implies spell stability, right? So you use your spell in a contest against someone else with all this setup, right? And it's a comparison. There's a test, right? And in this way, somebody who is way weaker than someone, let's say warfare, could defeat them with sorcery, right? Yeah. But here's the key thing that I find interesting about this, right? This implies that rather than the primary weakness of amber sorcery, which is you can do one spell at one time for one thing, and if you try to do more than that, it falls apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can instead create a structure where, okay, you can have this many spells running or this many spells prepared, and each spell can be prepared to an X amount based on how much time you invested. So basically, you're not so much preparing a specific spell as you are instead declaring how many charges you have, and they're expended when you use them.
All right. That's an aspect to it.
Yeah.
Also, from this sort of system of mechanics, sniping is a great thing.
Yeah.
So let's say you're going to snipe somebody with a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Sniper rifle is an aspect. Your sniping position is an aspect. You take aim. That's an aspect. You wait for the right moment. That's another aspect. Then you fire your gun.
Right.
And that's how you do the really big things is you prep. You prep up,
right,
and you pull the trigger.
Right. But see, that's what I'm talking about. Like as a for instance, right? I have a sniper rifle. I've done all these things. My sniper rifle is a magic item, but it's not the rifle. It's the scope.
Right.
And everyone's like, "Oh, the scope gives you like extra range, right?" It's like, no. Well, it makes you aim really expertly, so you can like put a bullet through somebody's throat. It's like, no. It's like, okay, so what does the scope do? It gives me the equivalent of 10 hours of aiming. What? Yeah, when I enchanted it, I put 10 aspects relative to aiming on it, so that when I expend these charges through this shot, it's all the bonuses I have now, plus all the bonuses I did at a different time on that scope. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Another aspect to all of this is, as I was thinking out the rules, say, okay, certain weapons have certain special things because they're weapons. And one of the things I was thinking about is for guns, unless you have a power or an aspect like armor, guns don't go to your stress track, which is like the lesser injuries that built into serious injuries. They go directly to just like your wounds. You get wounded if you don't have something like that. Narratively.
Right. Guns don't play.
Guns don't play. And this also gives you the ability to just murk a normal person right out the gate with a gun. Whereas somebody like a Batman somehow can get shot a whole bunch of times and he's fine. Even with an armor, Batman shouldn't be fine.
Well, so there's a really key mythological element here that needs to be addressed, because people get it way confused, right? And it's not just about the fact that the bullet moves at the speed of sound, or that it is a magnitude of force greater. It has to do with this. There are such people as are superhumanly trained, and I'm saying mundane actual people in reality, that they can catch arrows with their hands.
Mm-hmm.
Or can dodge a crossbow bolt, right? That's perfectly legit. Anybody who says that they can, with a sword, deflect a bullet is full of shit, right? So when you are talking about your characters as metamagical superhumans, right?
Mm-hmm.
They still apply to that logic. You say, okay, I can catch arrows and I can dodge crossbow bolts, fine. And I'll even go so far as to say, yes, you can deflect a bullet with a sword if you are that kind of good, right? But then we start talking about economies of scale, and it's like you cannot eat an AR-15.
You can't. No.
I'm sorry, you can't. The amount of fire that it puts out and the amount of force that there's behind that fire is just so nasty that even your superhuman resiliency will collapse. And before somebody says, but this example or that example, I have two for you. First of all, they beat the Terminator with 1980s technology by crushing it. Okay? The Terminator gets messed up in T1 if you actually pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do surgery on its own physical mechanics to continue functioning. And yeah, it can eat a lot of bullets, but it's not happy about it. Right? No. But even more than that, the much maligned but absolutely beloved, especially if you watch the Renegade edition, Highlander 2. We're going to drive into the military base. You know they're going to shoot the shit out of us. That's okay. Hey guys, first time in the desert, which way to Vegas? Followed by a montage that is nothing but Sean Connery and Christopher Lambert getting shot for like 5 minutes. It is so much ridiculous, over-the-top, ultra-violence that they die. And when I say they die, you go, but wait a minute, aren't they immortals? Don't they not die unless you decapitate them? It's like, no, they lay there and are pretty dead for, we must assume, like between 3 to 5 to 10 minutes before they sit up and are like, that really hurt. Because even their supernatural frame, a certain amount of mega damage is just, it hurts. It's damage. It's real.
I also adapted Popcorn Initiative into the system.
I'm not immediately familiar with that term, so you'll have to.
So narratively, the scene will start. One person will take an action, and that person will declare who takes the next action.
Okay.
And that includes the villains. You can declare that the NPCs get to take an action, and that becomes a combat strategy.
Okay, so basically everyone pops up at what time is most strategically appropriate for them, and then you shape the appearance of the conflicts in situ cinematically.
Yes, it's a cinematic initiative system.
Okay.
And all the heroes could take their turn one after the other. That means the villains take their turn. And then the villains, at the end of the first round of combat, will decide who gets to go at the next round of combat. So it's also about controlling who goes next.
See, that'll need some careful balancing. I mean, I understand that we're dealing with a non-diced system, but I have played a couple of games with some weird initiative systems. And one of the things that I have found is that going first is a superpower that is still not addressed very well in any game.
Because it's not addressed well.
Well, to give an example, I like Ironclaw as a game setting. Okay, as a game system, they have this idea where it's rise of heroes and rise of villains, and all the heroes get to describe their actions and collaborate, and all the villains get to describe their actions and collaborate on their initiative, but the order of operations is determined by who's fastest, which is legit, right? But there's just one problem. You see, this initiative system was clearly devised independently from the combat system, right? Where if you take a wound, every subsequent wound causes you to take an extra wound, plus you become in some fashion demoralized, which means you can become afraid. And if you're afraid, you want out of combat, right? If someone is killed, that's scary. If someone is overkilled, which is you do so much damage that they both are killed, and then you do extra damage over that, where their body is basically destroyed, right? It doesn't just give people a spooking; it automatically ends combat because everyone goes, "Whoa, I don't want any of that," right? Which makes sense, like it is logically sound. The problem is that if you build for a strength character, as I have done, and you build for hitting first and hitting hard, as I have done, and you build for one-hit kills, right? Every combat is perfunctory unless they jump you, because I just walk up, hit one guy as hard as I can, he explodes into a pool of blood, and everybody else quits.
Yes.
Forever.
Yes.
Right? There is a potential in the popcorn initiative for that situation where, well, we don't have to worry about the bad guys if we just win in the first round.
So this doesn't have that built in as a mechanic, even though that's normally something I like to do when I'm running a system.
I'm just saying you could see the concern.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And it's interesting. The thing we're going to need to refine a little bit more is the life path system, how we flavor that, and how we make the life path chart. One of the things of the system is that it defines better than other Fate systems, according to the AI bots, is powers. Powers are a bespoke system of rules that are modular, that you plug in, that, among other things that are powers related, they are also engines to develop fate points.
Yeah.
Now, for beings that don't have powers, there's a similar mechanic called stunts, where you can do things that are stunty. That's kind of appropriate for a pulp kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
But whereas a pulp character can have more money than God as a stunt ability, for a Batman or a Iron Man, my thought process is money is actually a superpower, just like the joke.
Right.
So hopefully Joel gets more time to read it, come up with some notes.
I'm on page 14. So.
Yeah, and some time to read it, come up with some notes, and maybe we can go to our good buddies at the Red Room and say, "Hey, can you spare some merch slot here?"
Maybe. I know that their website store shut down for lack of customer base, but they're still selling through some others, like where they can publish. And they can't publish on Drive Through RPG anymore because of bullshit. But who knows?
Yeah.
One thing that I see about the life path, again, something that I'd be concerned about and that should be considered, is the give and take of life events plus points, where basically you have the situation where if somebody has a suck life, they get points that can be used to then make themselves more potent, representing life experience.
Well, no,
you don't want to create an environment where people can game that.
Well, no, this is a random thing that's going to be done with a card pull.
Yeah.
My idea is you do it with a standard poker deck. So that is...
Yeah, the under the hood math is a little crunchy to my brain, but that's because I'm not a mather.
Right. And there's some aspects of the math where the bot wasn't sure about the math, and I'm like, we can figure it out in post.
Right. The bot's a starting place, never a finishing place.
Yeah. But the key thing is I have everything root itself back into the fate/leverage system, where points get generated, those points get used, and used points get turned into experience points.
Right, which I do think is very interesting, where it's like, if you basically what is being said is that if you actively engage in the situation in the game, you get rewarded with XP proportionally to your level of investment. which is something that as a long-term World of Darkness player was always a problem in Org. Not only because you got XP whether you majorly invested yourself or not, but then at least in my area, I don't know about your area, did you have nominations for good roleplay after game?
Yeah, we did for a little while.
I always found in my area that nominations almost always went to the same people for the same reasons. And it was usually the people who were best at being socially adept who always got nominations, whether what they did or not was actually interesting.
Yeah, that's
right.
That is something that we got rid of for that reason, as well as narrators said, "Boss, we don't have time for that shit."
Yeah, and that's the thing of it is, I'm open to all these ideas, but my primary concern is basically just creating an environment where people have a very clear understanding you can't and should not game the system, and with this idea of investment in is XP out, I still don't want to create the scenario where people heedlessly live on the edge because they think living on the edge gets them more XP. Living on the edge should be a choice. And the best example of that I have is our recent game on Friday, where it's like, wait, Byron is at 4 hunger? It's like, yes. Again? Yes. Because Byron often does incredibly stupid shit that requires him to risk getting hungry.
But the thing about fate points is, unless you have something that generates fate points inherent on your character sheet, you don't get ones automatically. You could say, hey, if I do this, can I get a fate point? And that's up to the GM.
Well, that leads to another problem. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm not trying to be the pessimist. I'm just saying these are issues I've seen in other game systems, which is in D&D 5, they have inspiration.
Right.
Now, inspiration is a wonderful idea, which is you did some good role play. I give you inspiration. You can now declare any one role you're going to make a advantage roll, right? The two problems are, one, if it's a social game day, maybe you never actually get in a condition where you can use it, and if you don't use it by end of session, it's lost.
Yeah.
Well, that sucks. I earned it and I can't use it. The other thing is that you have people who will grind for that inspiration, for that free advantage, and then hold on to it to offset bad decisions, right?
So the fate point mechanic, great question here with that is you say, hey, here's this aspect of my character sheet. I'm going to do this. Can I get a fate point? GM says, yeah. You get a fate point, which you can spend. Now, in the mechanical system that I've set up here is that you have a minimum of 3 that you start with unless the session stops in the middle of an event. Yeah. Like if you're in the middle of a combat, you don't restart because that doesn't make mechanical sense. Now, if you have earned more than 3, you can keep that in your bank. But things in the bank don't count towards experience until they're spent. And you spend experience points after you go through a major obstacle in the campaign.
Right.
So I think once we get this cleaned up enough that we would want to play test it, I don't think sitting on a lot of points is going to be a thing that players will actually do.
So what I was thinking, I mentioned the other night when I made this suggestion at dark of night, at late of late, was if we wanted to, perhaps reusing some material that I had generated, inspired by other material I had generated that we had discussed for an Amber game. And the idea I had was basically, whereas Shadows of Olympus does the Greek pantheon in its way, and we have what is it? Gossamer and Shadow does the Fae.
No, Lords of Gossamer and Shadow is it's Amber with the serial numbers filed off.
Right, and then Amber, of course, is Amber. I wanted to go in hard on Norse mythology because 1, I'm very knowledgeable in it and it's fun, and 2, like people like Skyrim. It's been remade many times. Come on.
Yeah.
Right.
But I made this in part because, number one, I wanted to improve some of the flaws on Amber Diceless.
Right.
And also, I just wanted to throw together a bunch of things I enjoy in role-playing games as mechanics together in a relatively coherent system.
But my notion, I have a layout for a thing. It's not very complete, but my notion was you have characters where option 1 is like normal dude.
Yes.
Right? And then option 2 is shapeshifters, but it's not furries. We're not going gross. It's you are touched by powers, and you are more like either a bear shirt or a wolf shirt, or you transform into something unusual, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we have this idea of immortals, right? Which you used to be mortal, but now you're not, right? And the idea immortals that I had written down were inevitables, people who have used technology to cheat death, right? Better living through chemistry, better living through gears and cogs, right? Actual lichdom, where we defy immortality by wizardry, vampirism, and then the one that's actually good, the one you should aspire to, playing one of the Einherjar, the glorious dead. You've already died once. You can't die again.
I mean, that's a fun thing about Dresden Files, and one of these days I need to run a Dresden Files game for you and some other people, because you can play an Einhar in Dresden Files, and you get to play them because Odin runs a PMC.
Sounds legit.
So he's like saying, listen, you guys are hanging around Valhalla anyway. How about you come down here? I need some private security forces.
Yeah.
But we have made our show.
Woo!
So since we're running over by a couple of minutes, I'm going to say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Doot, doot.